Hello, friends. My name is Adam, and I'm on a quest to be the most prolific reviewer of all time. And today I am reviewing a film called, not a film, sorry, it's a series called Fleabag, which is a comedy drama series which stars Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and it's also based on a one woman show that she wrote and produced. And so it also stars Sam Clifford, Andrew Scott, and those are not the most important people, actually. Uh, I guess Sam Clifford is. Um, but anyway, it stars. That's not the important part. The important part is not who it stars. The important part is what is it about. So it's in two seasons, and it has about 10 episodes. And the whole arc of the story is basically a woman is learning how to love, basically. And if we break it into seasons, the first one is a woman who slowly discovers that she is a sex addict, and she kind of is dealing with the fallout from that. And then the third one, in the second season, she's trying to recover from this addiction, and she kind of starts feeling real emotions for the first time. And like I in the beginning, this is gonna have a lot of spoilers, and I've already spoiled a lot, so sorry about that. But in the beginning, the story is really focused. It seems to be like one of these cool, hip things where a woman is talking in a liberated way about sex, but you can start and there are some really funny things, but you can start to see that she is not enjoying this. Like, she might be enjoying it at the moment, but this lifestyle's not bringing real happiness to her. Like, there's this great scene where uh, she is reading the news, she's watching the news, and she's just started to masturbate right next to her boyfriend. And her boyfriend's like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm just watching the news." And then he's like, "Oh, well, what was it about?" And like, I think the masturbation is not a problem in itself. The fact that she's doing it, it's just she does it in a really destructive way. Like, there's a point where she's having sex with her boyfriend, and she stops to masturbate, and he's like, "Oh, let's do this thing where we're focusing on each other, and we don't masturbate for like a day." And he comes home, and he like looks on the computer, and he sees all of these like searches that she's doing. um, and you think that that is kind of like the main problem, but it gets much darker, much more very quickly, because as I said, the episodes are short. I didn't say how short they are. They're like 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and there's five of them in the first season. So the writing is really, really tight and really, really focused. And it might seem like the boyfriend is like the more important thing about the whole story, and it's not really. The more important thing is the relationship that the main character, who is never directly named, which is crazy. And the subtitles say Fleabag, but I don't think that and I think it's called Fleabag, but I don't think that that word is ever mentioned in the whole series, which is interesting. So there are characters who they are never named in the series, which is kind of nice, unique, because you would never be like, "I, Adam, whatever." Your sister probably might say your name occasionally, right? But anyway, so it's about the relationship between her and her sister, her and her father, and her kind of grief over losing a best friend and feeling guilty about it. and losing a mother, and also her irritation with the fact that there's this woman who has appeared in her father's life, and she is so irritating and annoying, but she does love her father, so it's kind of a weird thing. And that character, like, all of the acting is great, and that character is played very in a great way by Olivia Colman, who modern day treasure, that woman. So yeah, that part, great acting. And so she's dealing with that, and I said that she feels guilt over the death of her best friend, and her best friend and her opened this cafe together, and it's not really being a success, and that's mostly because of Fleabag, for lack of a better character name. Fleabag is not able to handle this grief, and I think why this show is so devastating and hits you in the gut is because, like, that's a common theme, right? That you feel guilty that you lost somebody, but she really is responsible to a certain degree for her friend's death. It's not like she directly murdered her, although that might have been better. Because she's a sex addict, she slept with her best friend's boyfriend, and then her best friend took this really badly. And it's not quite clear if the friend knew that Fleabag had done this or not. And I think that Fleabag, thinking about it now, like, Fleabag is the name of the character because that's the character's perception of herself. Like, she's a flea bag, she's worthless, etc. But anyway, so Fleabag slept with the boyfriend, Boo, who's the friend's name. Boo finds out that the boyfriend was unfaithful, and she wants to punish the boyfriend. So she walked out into the bike lane, and she thought that she would just get injured and then the boyfriend would feel sorry. But the bike was going so fast that it sent her flying, and her body hit a car, and I guess she was killed instantly. The car crashed, and the driver was killed, and the person on the bike was killed. So I think that her guilt is connected to these three deaths, but she's like processing it through her friend because that's the one that she had a connection to. So that's like devastating in itself, but like, I think that the way the story could have been told would kind of reflect, would kind of, you could either say that in a matter of fact way, or you can show what effect this has on the character. And and the sex part is like light and funny and whatever, and she seems to be like this quirky person without any responsibilities or whatever. But she goes to this retreat with her sister, and it's supposed to be a silent retreat, and it's mostly for women. And she is there with this guy who also has his own problems, and we don't really focus on that character so much, but it might be it might be connected. He might have the same problem that she has. So he has he did something sexual. There was some kind of sexual assault at work. Not like, I mean, it was a sexual assault. I think he grabbed somebody's breasts or behind or something like that, but it wasn't rape. But so he gets sent by his company to this retreat, which is happening at the same place this silent retreat is. And you have all of these men, and the men are like, angry about being there. And so Fleabag and her sister are there. And so these two characters, the guy that I mentioned in Fleabag, have met before because the guy works at a bank, and Fleabag, she applied for a loan for her failing cafe, and she wrote like Gerbil Cafe, but it's a cafe that is themed around gerbils. It's not a cafe for gerbils, and the bank officer thought that it was for gerbils. But anyway, so she's really hot, and like some parts of this series are so funny. She's really hot, so she is taking off her sweater, and she thinks that she has a t-shirt under, and she's just wearing a bra. And he's like, "Oh, that's not going to work anymore around here." And that it's really funny because it's like, that there was a culture of sexual harassment in this place, and now it's over. And the guy is really offended by this, but Fleabag did. But so anyway, they meet again later at this retreat, and so there are two really devastating emotional scenes in this, and this one that I'm going to tell you just made me cry because her best friend has died. She's responsible for it, and she feels just so guilty and so empty. And so the guy gives this speech about what he wants, and that's like it's a great speech. It's about like the fact that he wants to be with his wife, and he wants to take a clean you know take the clean dishes out of the dishwasher, and have a cup of tea with his wife and ask about the day and not be worried that he's gonna screw something up, basically. And that's a great speech in itself. But then he says, like what do you want? Or I don't know, I don't remember exactly how he phrases it, but the conversation turns to her, and she says, i I want to know if other people feel this way. And if other people feel this way, this is really shitty. And if I'm the only one who feels this way, it's also really shitty. And I'm tearing up about it right now because and like when I say that and you're like, why is it crying about that line? It's just, it hits you so hard. It's like a bag of bricks. You're laughing and it's like, oh, ha ha ha, funny, and bang, boom. you know um and so what about the other one that really hit me? So the other one hit me in the other speech hit me in a really emotional way. That was in the second season. There's this character Martin, and Martin is the husband of her sister, and Martin is clearly an alcoholic, and his bad behavior is excused because he's funny alcoholic, although he's quite aggressive. um he says really mean things when he's drunk, and people are like, ha ha ha, really funny, because I guess the British find that funny. So, but that's just another thing. And I have a question for British people. uh I watched a lot of films and movie series where there are like main characters who live in London who are American or rarely Canadian. Does that happen so much that you have like American friends who live in London? Like I could understand like, Indian friends or Nigerian friends or whatever, but there always seems to be at least one American actor in these things. So yeah, Martin is the American, and he's a jerk. And so basically he gets drunk at his wife's birthday party, and he tries to kiss Fleabag. And Fleabag is like not happy about this, but she's not going to tell her sister. And so because she thinks that she's going to leave Martin. So uh, it turns out at the end of the first season that they're going to stay together and try and have a baby. And then that's when Fleabag says, well, he tried to kiss me. And then the last scene of the first season is also really a big emotional whammy, but I don't want to talk about that. But basically, the scene is her sister telling her, I can't really believe I need to believe my husband because look what happened with your best friend. You did sleep with her boyfriend, and that was your best friend. So why wouldn't you sleep with my husband, basically? So we go to the second season, and the the marriage between Claire and Martin has completely failed at this point because Martin is not a great guy and Claire has her problems too, but mostly it's about Martin being a jerk. And so they have this confrontation, and this is the emotional scene that really kind of did me in. They have a confrontation between Claire and Fleabag and Martin gives this speech. And in the beginning, it's just like, I do these things and you should appreciate it, which is just like a classic speech that these guys give in those situations. And it's so incredibly shallow. But then as he starts to talk, you realize that he is going to be like real and emotional. And he says, I realize that I'm a dick. He doesn't say that. He says douchebag or whatever. But I realize that I'm a douchebag and that I'm not a nice guy. I'm a bit of an asshole. And, but I love you. But I think the fact is that you don't like me. And that really, really hurts me. And I make you laugh. And you said that that was enough. And it's not enough. And he's confused by this, and it's just like a really emotional speech. And I didn't cry during that, but I think honestly that also really resonates because we've all probably been, I mean, the people their heart who have had their hearts broken in their lives. You've all had that situation where you say to the person like, I'm not perfect, but I love you and I do this for you, like I make you laugh, I'm like kind to you, whatever. And you said that that's what you wanted, but it's not enough. And I'm not so much betrayed by the fact that you're leaving, but I'm betrayed by the fact that you told me this, but it wasn't the truth. You lied about this fundamental thing. And, from the other person's perspective, that's why it's sad. It's not that they're lying, right? It's just what they said at the time was true, but then life happens and it wasn't true anymore. So, yeah, that's really, really, really quite devastating. And for 10 episodes, like this, so there's a question. So I've heard and I've read that this is the best TV show of all time. Is it the best? I don't know. That's very subjective, but I think it's really good. It's an amazing amazing writing, amazing acting. And as I said, there are a few flaws, like the fact that the writer is the main actress. She does a great job, right? It's not that she doesn't do a great job, but I think like you don't want to be you how do you separate yourself from your character, right? In that sense. And you're probably a bit kinder to your character than real life would be. Yeah. But I mean, the character goes through some horrible, horrible things, and I think there's also this kind of surreal aspect that I like about, maybe not surreal, more absurdist aspect of the comedy that I really like. So the one big part is that in the first season, well, throughout the entire run, um, the character of Fleabag can break the fourth wall. And she'll be like kissing somebody, and then she'll be like, hey, have you ever done blah, blah, blah? And you think about it, and you're like, oh, that's funny. That's funny. And then in the second season, she starts to fall in love with a priest, and some of these fourth wall breaks will be like her just looking at the camera with a like, kind of look. And so she falls in love with this priest, and the priest he's talking to her and she does this and he's like, what are you doing? Where did you go? Like, what are you doing? And so the the weird thing is that other characters don't comment when she's doing this. So it seems to be like a traditional fourth wall break. But then the fourth wall breaks. So fourth wall breaking, I mean, I think we're kind of used to it with Deadpool and stuff. But the idea is that you are, as a writer, you are saying, hey, look at this fiction. This is fiction. This is not real. What do you think about this fake story that I'm telling you? And mostly this is for comedic reasons, like, ha ha ha, let's laugh at this. Oh, you're crying? Ha ha ha. Let's laugh at this fiction. But then what the 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 fact that he's a priest and he feels like this spiritual kind of calling means that he is reacting to the fourth wall break. So it's extracting the fourth wall break back from ha ha ha, it's fiction, to like, oh, wait a minute, no 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 no, you thought I was showing you fiction, this is happening in this world, it's real. So it's I've never seen that before, and I think you couldn't really overuse it, but it works really well for that character because the priest that she falls in love with is really weird, right? He drinks too much, he swears too much, but he genuinely believes in God, and that's his calling, and he chooses God over her. And there's maybe not fun scene, but this last scene is basically like it's God because she's an atheist, and they have sex, and they're gonna talk about breaking up, and she's like, it's God, isn't it? And he's like, yes. So that's fun. So that whole break and the breaking of the fourth wall makes sense for that character because he is a bit touched, I think you would say, classically. And he's got also this weird thing where foxes will be chasing him, and then the last scene is just Fleabag sitting at a bus stop, and a fox is walking down the street and looks at her, and she's like, he went that way. So, yeah, I think that I understand why there's two seasons, but I think that the first season is much better than the second season. Is it the best television series of all time? I don't know. I think that's up for you to decide. If you've seen it and you think it's the best television series of all time, put your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you like what I do, please subscribe. I'm trying to get to 500 subscribers by the end of March. So I think we can do it. We're at 434, I think. And if you're listening on Spotify, please give me a follow. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.